Welcome once again to the Radical Imagination. I'm your host, Jim Vrettos, and I'm a sociologist who's taught at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and Yeshiva University here in New York City. The goal of the Jewish high holidays is to provide an opportunity toward the goal of teshuvah, returning to our highest selves in every dimension of our lives. The spiritual task is to delve seriously into what changes we need to make in our own lives and changes that our society needs. It's to be done with a spirit of love, empathy, compassion, and rejoicing at the central message of the holidays, that real change is possible. We welcome one of our dear friends and comrades of close to 40 years, Rabbi Michael Lerner, to the Radical Imagination today. He again will be leading services at the Beyt Tikkun Synagogue-Without walls that offers a structure for this self-reflection that can help us become more fully embodied sparks of divine light and love. Non-Jews, of course, are welcome. All can benefit from this remarkable process. Michael will share reflections on the connections between Jewish theology and the need to heal, repair, and transform ourselves, our society, and the life support system of planet Earth. Guest speakers will include Noam Chomsky, Bill McKibben, Letty Pogrebin, among others, and they'll focus on the difficulty Jews face when their progressive values come into conflict as they work for various capitalistic institutions which support the gap between the wealthy and the rest of us and defend practices that contribute to environmental destruction. Other topics will include Israeli assault on Palestinians, the growth of fascism and hatred of Jews, increasing poverty and hopelessness, the real danger of nuclear war, and the criminalization of abortion. The Hasidim taught that even in difficult times, the high holy days should be filled with our joy, music, dance, and love. Michael has carried out this prophetic tradition in these services, his vast writings, and activism, following the teachings of his mentor, Abraham Joshua Heschel, and others. As Heschel put it, to pray is to take notice of the work, of the wonder, to regain the sense of mystery that animates all beings. Prayer is our humble answer to the inconceivable surprise of living. Prayer is meaningless unless it is subversive, unless it seeks to overthrow and ruin the pyramids of callousness, hatred, opportunism, and the falsehoods. A liturgical movement must become a revolutionary movement, seeking to overthrow the forces that destroy this promise, this hope, and this vision. So, Michael, there you are. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. Sit up, young man. This is wonderful. It's so wonderful to have you again on the Radical Imagination to discuss the wonderful service that you're going to be conducting in just a few days and prepare our audience for that event. And I thought a way of maybe getting started is a brief little refresher for our Jewish and non-Jewish friends on the Radical Imagination. What constitutes the high holy days? And again, we're in year, what is it, 5783, correct? We've known each other 40 years. It's nothing to drop in the bucket to this enormous history and tradition. So help our viewers understand what's so important about these high holy days.
Well, you said a lot of what I would be saying about that, but I'll say that the high holidays are the time that we have set aside each year to look back on our life, on our personal lives, and on the life of our society, and see how much we have been able to embody our own highest values, and then to work out in the 10 days that start with Rosh Hashana, which this year is going to be starting on the I've forgotten the date, but it's
25th, right?
It's
Sunday
night.
Yeah.
The
25th, September 25th.
Sunday the 25th, Monday in the daytime, and Tuesday in the daytime, and then then there's a lapse of 6 days in which we're working on transforming ourselves, and and then it culminates in Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, also at one mint, all of us recognizing our unity with all being. And on that day, we make a solemn commitment to make the changes that we know we need to make. Now, I should say from the start, and I'll say it again, in this, our services are online. So people from all over the world can listen, can participate, and you don't have to be Jewish. There'll probably be many non-Jews who think, well, there's some Hebrew there. I don't know Hebrew. That's all right. Most Jews don't know it either. Mm-hmm. That the Hebrew is to give a feeling and urgency to addressing the issues. But the issues are both personal and global. How do we transform our world and ourselves in such a way as to make it possible for this world to survive? Now I say, why is this world to survive? Because although this planet will survive, the life on the planet is really in danger. And one of the reasons why we're having Bill McKibben speak is precisely because Bill McKibben is the founder of 350.org and is a leader of the movement of people who want to change our government policies in this country and in all around the world, so as to make it possible for our planet, for life on our planet to survive. The physical part of the planet will survive, but those who have consciousness, we're in danger. And that consciousness goes all the way down the list of ways that you can have consciousness, from the tiniest little first development of consciousness all the way up to human beings. And I say all the way up, I don't mean in a higher place, because many of the animals are doing less damage to this to the life support system of the planet than most human beings are. But I want to make clear that I'm not, I don't want to put all human beings down, because all of us have been trying to do stuff in a context that we did not create. And so part of the difficulty of dealing with transformation and healing, what we call Tikkun, Tikkun. So I'm the editor of Tikkun magazine, Tikkun.org. And I invite you to go to that website to see more of the kinds of issues that we take up. But one of the central issues is, what can we do to transform ourselves and society and save the life support system of the planet? Now, that's a huge task. And none of us should feel guilty that we did this by ourselves. The world that we've inhabited is one that we inherited, and it's been a screwed up world for at least the last several thousand years. But over time, what has accumulated has been more and more distortions in human consciousness, to the point where right now, there's a large element in our own society of good, decent people who nevertheless think, I can't do anything about changing the society at all. And I can barely do anything to change myself. The high holidays, the Jewish high holidays from Rosh Hashana to Yom Kippur, are supposed to be about that. Now, guess what? When I was growing up in the Jewish world, in Newark, New Jersey, in a wonderful synagogue with a wonderful Rabbi Joachim Prince, I had no idea that there were this element of transformation was central to
Michael, why didn't you know that? Was the rabbi did not present that? in the services? And why is your service so seemingly so unique? It seems like it is, isn't it?
Well, I don't want to say that nobody else is doing this. I
I
know that there are a
understand,
number of wonderful congregations
of
in New York
course.
City and around the world. There are many, but not very many. There are many, but not very many of the synagogues that address this. Why? Well, for number one, because the rabbis want to keep their jobs, and to keep their jobs, they have to please the people who donate the money to keep the synagogue alive. So it turns out that when I was living in New York for the five years, and that's when I really deepened my friendship um, um, with Jim.
Mhm.
Um, I spoke to many people who were very good people who really liked what Tikkun was about. But when I would say, well, can you help me introduce me to some people who might give money to keep us alive? Because we don't have any rich people. And the answer that I got over and over again was this: if you want rich people, you've got to stop criticizing capitalism, because that's where
Mhm.
they're making their money.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And so Michael, though, but you are dealing, and I brought that up in the opening. You are dealing absolutely with this central issue. Many good people, Jews and non-Jews, are working for the type of economic political system we are living under that in fact is so destructive. And yet, again, at a personal level, how can that individual grapple with that in a way that they don't sell out and that they can in some way promote the sort of change you're talking about? This is very, very difficult. And you do this in a way that is with great love and empathy, but also, as I think it needs to be done, in a confrontive way too.
yeah.
I mean, you
So,
can't just sit back here and la di da and right.
well, Jim, you've got a beautiful place to stand and talk about these issues. And what we need to do is, uh, first and foremost, to change consciousness, to change the consciousness even of people who are progressive, but who accept the notion that um, really you've got to be realistic. And to be realistic ultimately means to fit into the systems of oppression, particularly capitalism, but also it's capitalism is really the frame in which some of the most poisonous ideas are put forward. Number one, look out for yourself. Be, nobody's going to look out for you. We are all taught. So look out for number one. Number two, get as much as you can, and because the world is collapsing, and you better have more in your pocket or in your refrigerator or in your bank account,
Right.
because as the world is collapsing, the people who have enough will be able to survive better than the others.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Michael, again, let me.
Yeah.
This is so against the sort of prophetic tradition you're talking about that Jews, some anyway, have stood for so many thousands of years.
Exactly.
Correct.
So,
The sense of
so
community that we're all in this together.
yeah.
Um,
So this
and
is
we,
the contradiction that happens. You
right.
go to a synagogue, you hear very high messages from the prophets,
Yep.
but then you say, it was great. Hey, Rabbi, you made a good speech.
Right. Right.
um, or but it doesn't sink into, okay, now I have to change, and we have to change this society. We have to change the society in such a way that instead of the bottom line being maximize money and power, and and that's the way to be rational in this society, maximize your money and power, and you'll be safe. Our message is that the bottom line, the one that you use to judge whether something is efficient, rational, or productive, is the extent to which it maximizes people's capacity to be loving, caring, kind, generous, ethically and environmentally sensitive and responsible, and looking at the universe from the standpoint of awe and wonder, and not looking at it from the standpoint of, gee, I wonder if there's something in this planet or in the larger planets around us that can be turned into a commodity and sold. That's the capitalist mentality. So you can't change much until you've changed that consciousness.
But I hear that, Michael. I've heard rabbis that too have said that they stop short though of making the taking the action, as Heschel would say, to pray with our feet, to get out there and be active and put ourselves on the line and make the sort of decisions and push for the sort of policies, guaranteed annual income, McKibben's third stage bill, and so on and so on. What is it? Greed? Is it again the need to maintain one's well-being in this fear-based world? What is it that doesn't take us over to the world that you're talking about? And I absolutely believe, as you know, I try to live this way every day. Why is it that we need to have these special days to remind us? And people do turn to these special days. They try, and then who knows? Day or two after Yom Kippur, it's business as usual.
Well, yes. So first of all, I want to say that I think it's important to approach others with a spirit of compassion and generosity, okay? Because most of the people, including those who work for these huge corporations that are actually destroying the planet, okay? And I mean, we just saw today in the front page of the New York Times an article about how the healthcare system, the people who are running the national healthcare system in the United States, they the ones who have worked out the plans for the COVID, how to respond to the COVID, that they are investors in the corporations that are selling the kinds of shots that we need. It's like, okay, they didn't create this, but they're looking and saying, okay, how do I make a buck out of this?
And they fall into the system without
millions of bucks. So let me answer your question. I haven't answered it yet. Okay. So the reality is that most people who are good people, and they are working with the information that they have, and also with the worldviews that they have been taught since kindergarten. Okay, look out for number one. Everybody's out for themselves. Don't be too idealistic. Get yourself into the right position so that you can make a difference. But what actually happens is that most people take those ideas and they shape your life about what seems possible. And as a result, they never go for the actual things that need to be changed. And the actual things that need to be changed is, as I said, a new bottom line, a new sense of what is productive, efficient, and rational. And that new bottom line says that what is efficient, rational, and productive is to maximize people's capacity to be loving and caring, kind and generous, ethically and environmentally sensitive, able to respond to the universe with awe and wonder, and not looking at the universe from the standpoint of what you can do to transform it into a commodity. And what I'm saying to you is, the answer is people need to feel that there is another place that they can stand behind, except this standpoint of what is realistic as determined by the media that is owned by the super wealthy, and all the other institutions that they operate and run in this society. And the only way they're going to get that is if we can create a different kind of movement. And the place to start is by talking about these ideas to your friends. And when they say, oh, you don't want to listen to that too idealistic person, it's not going to get you anyplace, and actually we think you might be a little crazy if you're, and really people are charged with being crazy if they think that the world can be transformed. It can be transformed.
Absolutely. And
And that's what this message of high holidays is.
got it.
But people don't take that message home with them. They say,
All
that
right.
was very sweet, Rabbi. Very nice of you to
Yes.
talk about this. But now let's get back to the real world. And
All right, but Michael, you have somebody, a prominent, a speaker that's going to be on. He's been on our show as well, Noam Chomsky, who would agree with you, everything you said. Now he carries that forward, and with intense passion of the media that you're talking about, of the system that raises us in this false consciousness. He also applies it to one of the specific areas that you're going to be talking about, is Israeli oppression of the Palestinians. Now, tell me, you've invited Noam on. I think that's terrific. He talks about a spiritual Zionism, doesn't he? He talks about a one-state solution. Let's get concrete here in terms of progressive Jews and others who want the best for Israel, for Israelis, and for the Middle East. You have a prominent Palestinian activist as well, Maya Shaheen, on. So tell us how you're going to be concretely dealing with this very important, loving message that you're going to be presenting.
Okay. So concretely, you see, you're saying concrete, but not understanding that the most concrete thing you can do is to change people's consciousness. And one of the things that keeps that from happening is their sense that nobody else is with us. So many people agree with these ideas, but when they enter into the political realm, or when they're writing stuff and hoping to get it in the New York Times, which is really not so progressive, but is or any other of the mass media, they say, well, I have to tune down my message so that it can be seen as plausible. Okay, we have to challenge that, and we have to challenge each other. And we actually have a workbook, teshuvah. Teshuvah is a Hebrew word for returning to your highest self. Teshuvah, a teshuvah workbook that we send to everybody who comes to our high holiday services. And as I say, they're online. They're it's all part of. It's on Zoom. Bless Zoom that
Yes,
made that possible.
Absolutely.
Up before these high holidays, everybody just goes to their own little shul or big shul. But now people can go to any place around the world where there's a service that might interest them. And ours is a place where these issues get discussed deeply. And what makes it possible is only for people to stand up and say, I want a different way of looking at the world. I want a new bottom line. I want a world based on love and kindness and generosity. Now, let me tell you something about the left. The left, most of the people on the left actually come into the left for that because they want a different kind of world. But when they actually do their politics, they almost never talk about love, kindness, generosity. A world a world in which we are caring for everyone, and really caring for them. And I don't mean just saying that, but then having a left that cares for each other. Okay, yeah. I've been involved in social change movements since I was 21 years old. Okay, and now I'm about to turn in a few months. I'm going to turn 80. I have never once been in a rally or in a planning meeting or anything where people say, what we're really about is building a world of love and kindness and generosity. Why? Because they say, oh, well, that sounds so utopian and fantasy. Let's talk about the next demonstration. Or if you're on that next demonstration, no, we're not going to have a speaker talking about love, kindness, and generosity. That'll make us look like we're soft. Okay, because the capitalist indoctrination has made people think that to be hard means something about making more money or more power. And we're saying, no, the power that we want is the power of love and kindness and generosity to spread to the world. We want the caring society, one in which people feel rewarded emotionally and spiritually, as well as eventually materially, by the degree to which they care for each other. But they rarely hear that.
Agreed. Well, they've Michael, we've tried to present a lot of people on this show who have an agreement with what you just said. As you know, Cornel West talks about radical love. We've had him on a number of times. Jonathan Wilson Hartgrove, who's worked with Reverend William Barber, we've had him on 9 or 10 times with different people who have expressed the same sort of argument and need, as you're pointing out. James Gilligan, the psychiatrist that you know and we've worked with, talks about it also, the need to have a gentler, more loving, restorative criminal justice system that will bring about an end or much greater reduction of violence in the country, homicide and suicide. So there are elements in the left, I get you, who are still stuck in that world that you're talking about. But I think the left has opened up, partly thanks to your efforts too. So I see hope there. I do think, though, a lot of people talk about love and manifest it in different ways through different words. Perhaps Noam Chomsky is talking about love for his people, for the Israelis, by advocating a boycott, divestment, and sanction of them, or calling for the sort of consciousness, awareness that of the great inhumanity that at times the Israeli government is placing on Palestinians. So where does that fit in to what you're trying to do as well, and where on the left? Because I know the left can be divisive for itself and for others. And so when you talk about your efforts, how does it fit in with the elements on the left that are talking about radical love and radical transformation and healing and restorative justice and so on?
Okay. The next time you're in a rally with left people who are on the left, and from the podium, they're saying what we care about is a world of love, kindness, and generosity. Call me up and tell me how to reach those people, because we need to bring all of people who think that way together. Okay. But I'm telling you that it's not that way. That actually, although personally people will say, yes, that's my values, when it comes to the public realm, and let me say, start with the public realm of anybody who's not yet with us. Ask anybody who's not on the left, what do you think the left wants? And they'll tell you, oh, well, they want money for poor people, etc., or this, that. They'll list a bunch of programs, none of which get passed because there's not enough people buying it. Okay, so, but if you said to them, do you know that the left is really about love, caring, and kindness? They'd say, I never heard that. Okay, I know what the left thinks of us who are not with them. They think we're a bundle of deplorables. They think that we're all bad or evil, okay, or stupid. And that gets back to a part of the capitalist world that works so greatly to make people feel bad about themselves. It's one of the key elements of transforming the society is to help people overcome all the messages that they've been given from their childhood, that the only way that they're going to be recognized as valuable is if they accumulate a lot of money or power. And as we know, the class structure is set up in such a way that the vast majority of people will never accumulate money. More, they're lucky to, or we are lucky to have just enough to feed ourselves and to pay for the rent, etc. So Jim, it's yes.
No, totally agreed.
Okay, then don't be.
No. What I'm saying is
to make this a central discourse, a central part of the discourse of the liberal and progressive world, and it is not there, Jim. It's not there.
I agree. There are elements. You and I know. Okay, Reverend William Barber, who I know you admire tremendously, he does talk about the need to reach out to what those on the neoliberals have, as you said, Hillary, the stupid statements about the deplorable. But he points out how they're being used and pitted against each other. My
Yes.
mentor, Richard Cloward, talked about that. Now that, to me, that is a reflection of love as well. It may be couched in other terms, but they're saying we are part of this, that you are being exploited, that we are for you. We want you to know that following the progressive policies that we are advocating, your life will be better, you will be happier, and so on and so on. So I see hope in that. I see
Good.
leaders and people like that, including yourself, of course, Barbara and others who are speaking in with that sort of language.
Yeah, great.
And Gilligan and so on.
I'm all for it. I love Barbara. I love what he's trying to
Right.
do. There are a lot of individuals who are doing it.
And
But
Bill
if you-
McKibben too.
Oh.
McKibben does that as well. You can.
Okay. Yes, I know. But if
Okay.
just yesterday, I finally got to tape McKibben.
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
For our high holiday service.
Good.
And the word that you won't find coming out of his mouth very much is love, kindness, or generosity. That's not the 10-minute speech. That might be the hour-long speech, but they're not. This is not part of the central discourse of even the best people. Okay. It's not there, and it needs to be there. People need on all the parts of our society to answer the question, what are they for? Oh, they're for a new bottom line in which everything is going to be judged efficient, rational, and productive to the extent that it maximizes love, kindness, and generosity, ethical and environmental sensitivity, and awe and wonder at the grandeur of the universe. I
get your point. No, they have to make that goes a step further than what most people are talking about.
Exactly,
Right.
and that's what I'm trying to. So that's what we are trying to do, to build a movement of people who not only feel those values personally, but have the moral courage to talk those values in the public sphere when they have a 5-minute 5 minutes in the public on a radio show or a television show to talk about love, kindness, and generosity, and ethical and spiritual strength to transform our world. But a lot of the reason why many of the people on the left don't do that is because at the top of the left, the people who have the most money and often are the ones who support and make possible the existence of the nonprofits that on the left that put out the good ideas, are dependent on the rich people there. And now I'm very glad that there are some rich people supporting progressive nonprofits, but they won't go, and the people who get supported by them will not go to saying what we're really about is a new bottom line of love, kindness, and generosity, awe and wonder at the universe, ethical.
Absolutely. Michael.
Don't go there.
Absolutely. Look, your book, which I absolutely love and was a revelation, anti-Semitism on the left, the socialism of fools. You make the point. Yes, you have that element on the left, but isn't more the problem, as you point out in the book, on the right, on the fascist right, and the authoritarian personalities, and the economic forces that foster that? Aren't we also? Yes, we all have enough. There's enough blame for all of us to go around, but right now, as we're so threatened, our democracy is so threatened here and around the world. Is it more of the problem trying to reach out to these fascistic right-wing elements and in some way communicate with them the power of love and nonviolence as well, perhaps?
I'm all for doing that.
Okay.
And I want that to happen. But right now, I'm trying to reach out to the liberal and progressive world to change how they are heard, because they are heard as thinking about ordinary people, okay? Anybody who's not with us as being either racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, anti-Semitic, or stupid. And now, why does this lead people away from us? Well, here's another pivotal element of the capitalist order. It explains why wealthy people have more money, vastly more wealth than most people in the society, so that wealth is distributed totally unequally, and the gap between the super rich, and the rest has only been growing dramatically.
Right.
Why is that happening? Well, if you ask any of them, they will tell you, well, and this is liberal rich people as well as reactionary rich people. Well, you see, this is a meritocracy, and
Mm.
I worked harder, or I proved smarter, or I had more energy, and that's why I have more than you do. And the rest of you get what you deserve because this is a meritocracy. It rewards merit. And so those people who don't have more, they didn't try hard enough, or they were unlucky, but they didn't really,
Individual failure, individual
right. Now, this, you think
capacity
this
to
is not just some, uh, um,
structural
it's in the
larger thought.
discourse of everybody,
Mm.
including everybody on the left. People think, well, it's really unfair, but actually, I'm glad I have a little bit more than other people because I don't want to be on the losing side here, and
Mm.
so but for most people who are not with us, they believe that they're not having succeeded financially and in other aspects of their life, having loving relationships, etc., is all because something is wrong with them. Now, along comes the left, and who was the most famous left person running for office for the presidency in the 20th century? It was Hillary Clinton saying, "Well, yeah, you know what? You're a bunch of you're a bundle of deplorables." But that message is not just Hillary's. When I ask it to ordinary people on the left, why do you think we didn't win this, or we didn't win that? And the answer I get over and over again is because everybody on the other side is racist, sexist, homophobic,
You won't
xenophobic.
get that answer
They're
from Bernie
stupid.
Sanders or AOC, would you,
What?
Michael? You're not going to get the same sort of answer as Hillary gave from Bernie or AOC.
Yeah, well, Bernie, and
Well,
that's why the ruling elites did everything they could, including the New York
absolutely.
Times, to
And
keep Bernie's
AOC.
message out of the front page. And when he was winning elections, when he ran for the first time, they didn't report it, or they put it on page 18 or 20, but not on the front pages when he would be winning primaries. So but what happens for individuals is that many people then feel um, bad about themselves, and they internalize the self-blaming, and they say, I would be doing better if I hadn't worked harder when I was in high school. Or
Hmm.
if for women, it's often played up to the sexual needs of the first bosses that I had. Or there's so many things that people point to say, I screwed up. And that I screw up thing then allows them to feel terrible about themselves.
And that
When they
has
feel
profound
well,
consequences,
one
doesn't it?
second.
Michael?
When
Yeah,
they feel
right.
terrible about themselves
Right.
that way, they often
Relationship.
try to repress that feeling. And
Right.
so when they hear somebody from the left telling them that they're racist, that they're sexist, that they're homophobic, they feel like, wait a second,
Yeah.
I'm
Curious.
being blamed again. And hey, I didn't create this society. I'm just trying to make my way in the society. So why blame me?
Right.
I'm not the bad guy. I just inherited this. I didn't create slavery. I didn't, and I don't know how it can be changed or overcome. But meanwhile, I feel bad, and making people feel bad is the central strategy of most of the left today. Not the few exceptions that you've mentioned, but
Okay.
most of the left, the strategy is make the other people feel bad, show them that they're screwed up, show them that their life is a mess, show them. So this way of talking lacks love, caring, kindness, and generosity.
I
So it doesn't
understand.
matter, even if I had a movement that was saying we're for love, caring, and generosity, but then in the way they treated to each other, they treated each other in the way that the left often treats each other on the left, namely in endless arguments with each other, and
Or as commodities.
they never ever like in a mass demonstration. Okay, the next mass demonstration. See if you can um, um, care, care pay attention to this.
Okay.
In mass demonstrations, it's almost never that somebody says, okay, now what we're going to do for the next 10 minutes is we're going to just stop the talking here, and we want to ask you to turn to other people that you don't know and introduce yourself, because our goal is to have a society which is caring for each other. So we're going to spend a little bit of time having you get to know some of the people in your demonstration. The last Bernie demonstration I went to here in California, there wasn't an inch of that. There was nothing. And I've never been at a demonstration, and I go to a lot of them all the time. Okay. I've never been to a demonstration where anybody thought, oh, part of what we want to do is to build a community of caring amongst each other. On the contrary, all we know about each other is how they're wrong on this, or they're wrong on that, or the other thing, or I have the best solution to this, that, or the other thing. But never, let's sit down with each other and get to know each other in the liberal world, in the progressive world. That's not part of the consciousness that exists there, that we should be caring for each other, and do that not just in talking about building a world of love, but actually acting that in our own organizations.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. I did a show earlier in this week with one of the climate change campaign director of Greenpeace, a young woman, Anusha, probably in her 30s, did talk about how the training that they're going through, most of them young people, are geared to feeling this sense of community, that they are going to be taking these dramatic actions together. And so I see, particularly as I have younger guests on the show, that the younger generation, 20s or 30s or so on, are looking for the sort of things that you are talking about, and that we looked for when we were that age, and we haven't given up on, as is obvious, since we're still close friends and reaching out to each other and love each other very, very much.
And it's great, Jim, that you have such people on your show. You know,
well,
that's
listen,
wonderful.
It is. I've been
you're
blessed.
Doing your part, and I'm not saying nobody's doing their part. You're doing your part by elevating some of those voices on your show. Great, terrific. And I'm saying, as you look at the whole society as a whole, and what people believe is the left or the liberals, and what people believe is the right or the reactionaries, it turns out that there's very little room in the left for imagining that you could speak to people on the right who are not the extremists of hate. Because yes, there is the 20% of them are extremists of hate, but there are a lot of other people who have misguided ideas, and they feel that we are looking down on them all the time and putting them down. We need to figure out a way to communicate that can, on the one hand, put forward a different vision of what we are about, and on the other hand, exemplify that caring by being in a caring way, talking to other people.
And have empathy and understanding of where they're coming from as well.
So that's what our High Holidays is about.
I wanted to bring us back to that. So you're going to be doing that in a micro sort of way in the 10 days here. So the few minutes we have left, just be a little more specific on how you're going to have these wonderful guests. I know Kat is going to be involved, Amy Goodman, Cecilia Wambach. You've got quite a group of people here. How is this going to be organized, and how can people register for it, et cetera, and become involved?
Well, the first thing is, if you want to register for it, go to www.tikkun, tikkun.org, tikkun.org, and there on that website, you'll find a way. If you look through the different things, there'll be a place that hits you in the head saying, come to our High Holidays, okay? And they'll show you how to sign up for the High Holidays. And for people who don't have any money or whatever, we'll let you in for whatever you have. We're
Okay.
not, this is the only time in the year that we ask anybody for money. It's high holidays. And the rest of the year, nobody has to pay anything to go
Right.
to any of our services or to participate in any of our organizational
Wow.
activities. But
We've gotten some emails from some, I won't mention prominent synagogues. Wow, they are asking a whole lot of money. I mean, this becomes part of this huge business, doesn't it?
yes, absolutely.
It's unbelievable, quite frankly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I I
Well,
wish
we
there
could go
was
on
some
and
other
on with that.
way you could get the money to run the basics. But I mean, I've been working for Beyt Tikkun, my synagogue,
Right,
the synagogue I created some 25 years ago. For the last 10 years, I've been working on it without any pay at all.
right.
Why? Because we didn't get enough money, and I thought I want this to happen. I want this to continue. So I'll use whatever tiny little bit of money was able to save in the past to live on for a while.
Well,
Okay,
I happen to believe, I think in my mind, uh, the ancient prophets probably did the same thing. So you're in good company, but again, specifically, how is this 10 days going to be working for people that
okay.
are going to be
We've sent out, and if you sign up for it, you'll get one in the mail,
right
a uh, a workbook
workbook?
that you can work through um, about your own personal needs and own personal life, and what you need to work on, both in that level, but also on the level of social change.
Okay.
So we don't these holidays often, um, even the best of them, if you go to some of the cool synagogues in the Upper West Side, okay,
Yeah.
they end up being a lot more about sort of like a community sing along, a
Yeah.
feeling of goodness, and I'm all for feeling good, yes,
Yes.
but when it comes to the prophetic voice and challenging people, not just about, okay, take care of this problem or that problem, but to look at the fundamentals and challenge that, to fund the fundamentals of a society that is based on maximizing money and power, and thrives on cynicism and domination of others, and ask where in their synagogues do they address these questions directly. Well, that's what
Absolutely.
we do.
Michael, you're going to be buddying up. People are going to be buddying up with others. Sort of, it seems like
Yes,
when
well,
I was
we
in
also have
yeshiva, the
in the
midrash.
middle of the services, we
Yeah.
stop and say, okay, we're going to assign you to randomly to other people here, so you can talk about some of these issues and for yourself. In other words, it's not just up on the front, the rabbi talking, and of course we have many other people participating in the service. But beyond that, we want everybody to talk to somebody who they come to, and we do that at each service. We break down into small groups of usually 2 or 3 people, and they're people you don't know, but you get to know somebody that you didn't know.
Right.
So it's part of the process. But that's, so on the one hand, the guidance to making teshuva. Teshuva means return or transformation. Um, and on the other hand, working with a larger group in your synagogue, if you can get your synagogue to start addressing the new bottom line. Okay, if they're just talking about this particular problem or that particular problem, great. I want you to talk about those, but give a framework that challenges the dominant ethos of capitalism, that challenges the dominant vision of a world based on selfishness and materialism, and says, no, we will not settle for anything less than a world and a society based on caring for each other and caring for the earth. Nothing less than that. We want that as the center of our thought, and the new bottom line of judging of things efficient, rational, and productive, to the extent that they maximize love and caring, kindness and generosity, ethical and spiritual consciousness, and care for the earth, care for the planet.
Well, Michael, so well put. I don't think you can even top yourself after that one. And I wish you the happiest of New Years, and I love you so very much. Beatty does as well. We're so thankful for you for having you in our lives,
Well,
and we really wish you all the best as always. And
I feel
good
that way
health.
about you and Dee Dee too. So
Thank you,
yes,
and I love to Kat and
more
to
love, the better.
yes, more love, more love. And we will be playing that clip that I sent you of the wonderful violinist on the fiddler beginning the show, which you're not seeing right now. But so that will be a wonderful way of opening up the love that you've been talking about in this show. So thank
Wonderful.
you again
Thank
so very
you.
much.
Thank you for having me. And I
Thank
love
you.
Jim.
We've got New York covered now. We've got the East Coast covered. This show, we're gonna okay. Thank you so very much, Michael. Take care.
Great.
Be
Thank
strong.
you.
Be well.
God bless
All the
you.
best. God bless.
And
Take care.
Shana Tova Tikateva be inscribed for a year of love, of kindness, of health and happiness and success in all of your endeavors, including this wonderful show you run.
Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you so very, very much, Michael. Bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all very, very much for watching us here this week on The Radical Imagination. We'll see you again next week on The Radical Imagination. This is Jim Vrettos. Happy New Year.